Listen, 5.5, the quadratic formula, you're going to work on getting rational and irrational answers. Quadratic formula is something, it's kind of a love-hate relationship. It's not bad, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's not hard. I still remember the quadratic formula because of the song that my teacher sang, and it was to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel, and I will be singing it to you, and I will have this YouTube video for you to watch, and it will be stuck in your head too for the rest of your life, so you're welcome. So what is the quadratic formula? It is a formula that uses the coefficients of a quadratic in standard form. We've seen that already. Once solved, it gives you the roots or solutions to the quadratic function. So what's happening is one way to get answers to a quadratic is by graphing it. And the solutions happen at its x-intercepts. Remember, we call those the roots. They're also called solutions. So roots, solutions, x-intercepts. There's one more word I'm not thinking of right now. Those are all meaning the same thing. Those are the answers to a quadratic. That is what they're always wanting you to find. And so what happens is we can graph it, but sometimes that takes a while too, and sometimes the answers aren't so pretty. Or we can do this formula, which says the x's will equal negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It's like hard for me to say it without even singing it. So let's just jump in and try one. Remember still to have your quadratic set equal to 0. So to get the roots, I'm going to add 12x over. So now it's positive. So my a is 4, my b is 12, my c is 5. So x will equal, here we go, a negative of a b, your b. Negative of just means the opposite of. So now it's going to be negative 12 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times your a is 4 times your c is 5. All over 2 times a, which is 4. This, b squared minus 4ac, should look familiar because that was the discriminant that we did. Okay, the next step is I want you to figure out what number is here under the square root. So I'm just going to plug that into my calculator. 12 squared, which I know is 144, minus 4 times 4 times 5. I get 64. All over 2 times 4 is 8. Then the next thing I want you to do is either take the square root or simplify the square root, which at least it is a perfect square. That is 8 over 8. What's happening is you should get two solutions most of the time because it's a quadratic which has symmetry. It usually goes through the x-axis twice. So you're going to get two answers here. One, I'm going to use the plus sign. So we have negative 12 plus 8 divided by 8. One's going to use the minus sign. Negative 12 minus 8 divided by 8. Negative 12 plus 8 is negative 4 over 8. That reduces to negative 1/2. Negative 12 minus 8 is negative 20 divided by 8. Divide out of 4, that'd be negative 5/2. I'll do these curly brackets around it because that's called a solution set. So those are the x-intercepts of the function. So again, not bad, just kind of a pain in the butt. Number 2, I'm going to add my 87 over, so now it's positive. Our numbers are getting bigger. X will equal a negative of b. Your b is negative, so now it's going to be a positive. Plus or minus the square root of your b squared. Minus 4 times your a is 3. Times your c is 87. All over 2 times 3. Okay, so first step, figure out what number is under your square root. Oh, I don't even do that. Negative 42 squared minus 4 times 3 times 87, 720. And it's still under a square root. All over 6. Okay, I would try to square root 720 and I get a decimal. They want you to have them in a plus or minus bi form. They want you to keep it a radical. So now I have to ask myself, how do I simplify square root of 720? This is what we did at the very beginning of the year. So use those numbers on my wall, use your little cheat sheet. I know 36 times 2 makes 720. But if I have that, I'm left over with a 20, which has a 4 as a perfect square in it. So really, if I took 36 times 4, 144 should be my biggest perfect square. Let's try it. Yep, 144 times 5. So think about splitting this up into your perfect square times your non-perfect square. And then we'll simplify 42 plus or minus square root of 144. Can't talk. It's 12 square roots of 5 all over 6. Okay, so how to simplify this? Split it up. I want to tell you this. Actually, before I even do that, no, I'll go ahead. I'm going to put 42 divided by 6. This is like kind of distributive property backwards. Both of these terms on top are getting divided by 6. So 42 over 6 plus or minus 12 square roots of 5 over 6. Simplify your fractions. So 42 divided by 6, that would be 7, plus or minus 12 divided by 6 is 2 square roots of 5. You can't divide a square root by a non-root. So 7 plus or minus 2 square roots of 5 would be your 2 answers. Okay, what I think is going to be hard is the simplifying. So let's look at what happens when you get down to these two things. So think, if these were what I ended up with out of the quadratic formula, what would my final answers be? One's going to be negative 20 plus 8 divided by 8, and another one's going to be negative 20 minus 8 divided by 8. That would be negative 12 eighths. That would be negative 28 eighths, and then you simplify. I'm going to divide out of 4, so that'd be negative 3 halves. Divide out of 4 would be negative 7 halves. Okay, the ones with radicals are the harder ones. So now let's see if you could do without splitting them up. I'm going to take negative 14 and divide it by 2. That's negative 7. Then I'm going to take 4 divided by 2. That's 2 square roots of 3. So I no longer have a denominator. Okay, number 7, take negative 1 divided by 3. That's negative 1/3. That does not make 3. Then take 3 divided by 3, and that's 1. So plus or minus, you don't need a 1 in front, square root of 2. That answer is totally acceptable. And then number 8, notice how you've got 6 over 42. That's not 42 divided by 6, that's 6 over 42. It needs to simplify to be 1/7 plus or minus. This would be 12 over 42, which can divide by 6. That would be a 2/7 square root of 5. So you could put it in like this, or put that back together so it's 1 plus or minus 2 square roots of 5. They're both over 7, so you can put them together with that common denominator. I'm sure it will take either answer.